My name is John Renart. I'm 76 years old, and with this bout of lung cancer getting progressively worse, I know that time is a factor. But I have to get this off my chest before the pearly gates call for me. Our story begins in 1924. I was 17 at the time, and an orphan at 6, and having dropped out of school the year before, I decided to try and make ends meet, mostly doing odd jobs in and around Vancouver. It was also around this time I started train hopping, and one day I ended up in Vermont. Whew! It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I tell you what. The towering evergreen trees, the blankets of open, lush pastures. Oh, brother, if there were heaven on earth, I thought to myself, this was the place to be. I got off the train just as the brakes jammed tight to a gentle crawl. Not too far away, as shadows fell, I saw an old workman's shanty and decided to shack up there for the night. The windows were boarded up with rotted planks of wood. For some reason, almost like the last occupant didn't want anyone to be there. I took a chunk of rock off the ground and broke open the padlock. I opened up my sack, got my quilt out, rolled it on the floor, and went to sleep. No sooner I had closed my eyes, I jolted to a stir with a start, for sitting there at the old desk, which was covered in cobwebs, clacking away at the keys of the old rusty typewriter, was a man in old-fashioned workman's coveralls. He turned to face me, and with his cold, unfeeling black eyes staring deep into my soul, he said, "Turn back, child. This place mighty weird at night." Disembodied calls rang through my ears. The chuffing of a non-existent steam engine rang true as I tightened my eyes into a terrified screw face of sheer horror. After what felt like an eternity, I woke up. The silence was deafening. Thank the Lord it was sunup. The boom of a whistle and the all-familiar sound of a bell was all I needed to hear. I bolted out the back door, and when the time was right, I leapt up into a boxcar on my way back home. I made a vow never, ever to go train hopping again, even if my life so depended on it. When I got back home, I rushed into my grandmother's arms and gave her the hardest hug I could ever possibly muster. My grandfather, for context, having died many years ago, a thought rang into my head. I thought it the right time to ask about him a few days later. "Gran, what happened to Gramps?" She went pale, and her face fell to a sad, almost mournful frown. "Jackie, reason why I hid his existence to you for so long was because he was a terrible man. He beat me up when I was younger. You see, he worked in Vermont as a conductor for a railroad down in the States. He died long before you were born. Story goes he was typing on his typewriter when a freight train crashed through his hut not too far from the station. His body was never found." I still get chills down my back when I think about it. But having known that my Gramps was talking to me that night from the other side adds a new level of freakish to Olympic heights. All work and no play. Makes Jack a dull boy was the phrase that came to mind, but between you and me, work and being dull suited me just fine. Wouldn't it do the same for you?